Howdy, howdy, Suitable here, and welcome to an analysis video for Tower of Babel, Survivors of Chaos. I've got some data here that I've done, and I will show a sample run at the end of the video so you can see sort of how I got this information. Basically, it's all on level 1 with a character that has no other external buffs or anything else like that, just a level 1 character. And these numbers sort of down this column are how many times I've got this ability at level 1 to sort of get an average of how much damage it's doing. And you know, this is at level 2, 3, 4, but these levels aren't included in my analysis. They're just for curiosity. I might end up filling these out over time to see if there's any really key progression points in the abilities. And I do have a reference here for the basic abilities, what they say their starting damage is or cooldown, your projectile count, you know, what other things affect them. I'm not sure if these are all as it is, but this is what the abilities say they do. So there might be some hidden things in the abilities. So I'll go over each of them and sort of do a little commentary. And you know, if you just want a shortcut, you know, really these are the abilities that you really want to try and find, particularly the top 3: lightning strike, spinning blades, and dagger. If you're in early levels, you know, with lightning strike being probably the only S tier ability, it has like the most damage, it targets elites and it stuns them. It's just a fantastic ability. But we'll start at the top with Sanctuary. Sanctuary is something I would definitely stay away from without any other buffs or anything like that. It does very low damage at 6.3 compared to, you know, it's like a third of the damage of the top ones. It does have a knockback, and it seems like it might be okay when you read it, but the knockback is not very strong, and the amount of damage it does is fairly poor. Blood Whirlwind is an interesting one. It does very low damage at 6.6. However, it does heal you, and you do generally want healing. It's better to have reses, but healing you just need. There are other ways to get healing and damage mitigation, but this is, even though the damage is not great, this is not an awful ability to take. Blizzard, on the other hand, I think is pretty terrible because it doesn't target. It's, you know, it doesn't always grab everything, and the slow is good, but the damage is actually very poor. So I'd stay away from Blizzard. Anything sort of on here. So basically, what I did is I took the average and then the standard deviation, and anything sort of below 1 standard deviation is here, and anything from average to 1 standard deviation below is here, and then the average is 12.1, and 1 standard deviation above and 2 above, just to give me a way of thinking about this. But Swamp of the Dead is not awful. It does have a slow. It doesn't do a whole lot of damage. Same with Corpse Explosion. It doesn't do a great amount of damage. It can be handy when you're being swarmed, so I mean, it's okay. Spear of Light is very low damage, and you know, generally I don't like it as an ability. You know, just a straight beam. It is a little better with the legendary effects on it, but even then it's still not that great. Meteor Fall is an interesting one. It doesn't do a ton of damage, but it does land on something and then does damage over time as well. Earth Spike, again, one of the problems with Meteor Fall, Earth Spike, these two abilities, is that lots of times you tend to be running away from them, so they're not right around you, so they don't kind of stick with you. Dragon's Breath is a very high. You need to have ability to use Dragon's Breath, because you have to point it and aim it all the time. So you can just do that with your mouse, just aiming around things, but you know, it can catch a lot of creatures and does some damage, but it's, it doesn't scale really well. You can see through here, and it just, you really need some skill to make Dragon Breath work, so I would stay away from it, even though the damage is bad. Ice Spike is one that the damage is okay, but it's actually a really great ability because it slows things, and it has enough range to get to those elites that shoot things, and it slows them down. It's actually one of my favorite abilities, starting here, because it's actually quite handy in the way it does. It's very much like Dagger, though Dagger has a lot more damage. Slowing things down is good, and I like having Ice Spike and Dagger together. They're really good for just mowing down elites. Lightning Wave is okay, because it just shoots out from you, and it does okay damage. I generally don't like to use it or take it. Frost Arrow is nice. It has a pretty good range, and it slows things down. It does a reasonable amount of damage. Ball Lightning is a weird one because it doesn't exactly target anything, but it has good piercing and tends to do decent amount of damage. Magic Hammer, same thing. It doesn't target anything. It just shoots out from you. It does okay damage. I don't mind taking Ball Lightning or Magic Hammer. Divine Judgment, another one. It doesn't look like it's that great, but it's not bad as it turns out, so it's right on the average. Purge is something that's above average damage, and it's great because it targets elites. This is definitely one I look for. I always want to have at least Purge or Lightning Strike, even both. Ice Orb is a nice ability because it has lots of projectiles and it slows things. This is another ability I quite like. Phoenix is decent because one of the things is the mobs in this game don't have healing, so it sort of chips everything down and reduces their health. I mean, it's not nearly as good as Spinning Blades, but I like to have one of these. Is not bad to have. Fire Orb does surprisingly good damage. It's a little harder to use, but when you're stuck in sort of a furball of mobs, it pierces through everything, and it does pretty decent damage, and it's pretty reliable. I don't take it if I can help it, but if I can get better things, but it's not something I actively avoid. It can be pretty strong. Summon Reaper is surprisingly strong. And it'll take out sort of does target, and it's right near you, and it'll take out a lot of enemies, so it can help you get out of a bind or clear a path for you. Chain Lightning is very good. One of the advantages things like Chain Lightning has, it goes from creature to creature to creature to creature. It doesn't miss unless it just runs out of bounces. So it does really good damage, especially at low levels. Dagger is incredibly strong. It has a few projectiles, but it does a ton of damage, and it's just really good all around. If you ever see Dagger, always take it. Same with Spinning Blades. Spinning Blades is that chip damage. It's not around you, but it sort of makes all the enemies a little less, gives them a little less health, and it always does well, whatever level you have it at. And it's really good to have. And again, the top tier, S tier, is Lightning Strike. If you ever see it, take it. Unless you're doing a specific build, but it's one that you always take. And one of the reasons why it's so strong, and it's stronger than Purge, for example, is Purge will land somewhere and then move to an enemy, whereas Lightning Strike is always landing directly on an enemy. And not only does it do a lot of damage, it lands directly on the enemy, it also sort of stuns them for a little bit or slows them. So this is the absolute best ability of the game, and I would always take it. So this is a chart for reference. If you have any questions about how I went through it and maybe other things, feel free to ask. So now I'll just show you a sample run so you can see how I took the data. Alright, this is the sample run to show you how I've been taking the data. I have a level 1 character. I haven't got any abilities at all leveled, and you know, he's just got the basic equipment and armor, and the skills is sort of how he starts. And I'll go in and really try to take, not try to, I always make sure that I don't take any buffs that will affect abilities that I have, so that none of the skills are affected by anything that I take on top during the run. So I will ban things that I know that I don't want to take, and I just want to make sure they don't show up. But we'll save my re-rolls, so I don't have to worry about it. So we'll take evade. Alright, basic attack. Doesn't affect anything that I'm doing. It just helps clear all the mobs in level. I guess purge is probably going to be the handiest, but I'll essentially what I've done is taken everything so that obviously I can get the data that I want. Life regen, there we go. As you can see, as I mentioned, purge just moves from thing to thing. That's why it is the way it is. Okay, evade. Whereas lightning strike goes directly to the enemies. But purge is really handy, you know, especially because there are some mobs that are elites that are really tricky to handle. You know, particularly the one that shoots knives. That can be a real pain if you don't have the right abilities to get them. But that's, you know, why Ice Spike and Dagger are so nice, because they just mow those guys down when you get a little closer. But Purge and Lightning Strike are ultimately what you want, because they will kill them from a distance where they can't really get you. I'll take Spinning Blade. It's, even though I'm getting 2 levels of Phoenix, Spinning Blade is better. And I'm just doing this as a sort of a demo run anyways. You see, this is one where Sanctuary looks like it might be good, but it's, well, you know what, I'll take it to show that it doesn't do that a whole lot of damage, even though it looks like it's going to be good. And you know, you can really even put a lot of effort into trying to make it useful, but it's still, it is just still hard to use. It's not very good. Basic attack. And because the knockback is not very strong, you can see when I really, it's not, you have to get a much higher knockback before you even really see the enemies moving back. So look at this guy. Alright, he's not shooting anything. Purge. And you can see that Purge will find him. You know, and I'll try and get nice and close so that Sanctuary, during my, especially during my runs, I'm really trying to make sure Sanctuary is going to get some damage in. So I'll try to get really close so I can kind of maximize the amount of enemies that I'm going to hit. Then sometimes, you know, I need to run around and get my experience. So, basic attack. I'll try and run through these guys and let Sanctuary do some work. Swamp the Dead. Yeah, and you'll see, like, when I talk about Swamp the Dead, like, I'm running around, so, you know, you gotta really actively try to run guys through it, but often that can be really difficult. You know, if you're trying to go get your experience or do whatever. Because it sort of just sticks where it is. And some of the legendary effects you can get for it are really nice. You know, when you start getting projectile count and you get a lot of them out there, it can really be a nice skill. But in the early levels, it's just not very good. Alright, we'll do Meteor Strike. You see, Meteor Strike is always aiming and landing on someone, but again, it's one of those abilities that you're running away from it, so it's not going to get the dot right now, like it's all by itself. So it's hard to actually get that extra damage off that skill. However, when you have a big mosh of enemies, it's pretty good. I'll take Dragon Breath because I'm not very good at using it, but it's you know, you always gotta aim it. So I'll just do my best to actually try and use the ability, but I find it quite difficult, even when I'm really focused on it. It's a high skill sort of ability, like, so there'll be people out there that are really good at just doing multiple things. I am not one of those people, but you know, I still try and really, essentially, I stop watching exactly where I am, and I'm watching where my ability goes, so I can get stuck in bad situations, because I'm not really looking around. Purge. We just want to make sure that we can get those bosses when they show up. So I'm going to try and get this line of guys above me. I better get out of here. But yeah, now I'm not even really watching where all my XP is and everything else like that, because I'm just trying to utilize Dragon's Breath. So, you know, people I see manually aim all the time are pretty amazing at it. I am definitely not one. But it has a pretty decent range. I mean, decent enough that, you know, you can sort of line things up. And I want to get these guys with my flames. Make sure I don't get stuck in them. A little movement speed is probably not a bad idea, but that resurrection could come in handy. It's always good to have one. Resurrection is such a strong ability because it heals you from 0 to full and it gets rid of all of the enemies on the screen. So, you know, you can win some of the you know, the non-boss levels just by having 3 reses. Even if your build is not that strong at the time, just because it does eliminate all the enemies on the screen. Okay, spinning blade. Oh, I see Elite coming, and he's shooting fireballs. Get in there and burn them. Gotta watch because these pokey guys are here too. There we go. Around the 3-minute mark. So usually when I get to the end of the run too, I generally try not to take new abilities sort of in the last minute. I mean, I don't know exactly how the damage is calculated by the system, but I really want to minimize, you know, taking ability at the last second. Yeah, let's purge. Make sure we'll see we get that guy with our purge. Try and run in through here, grab my XP. See if we can't get him into our sanctuary as well. Alright. Oh, and we got a magnet as well, which is great. I might as well take a magic find chance. Maybe we'll get a nice legendary, even though we never use it. Sometimes you get stuff for other characters too. Alright, basic attack. Trying to sweep that around. These guys aren't terribly difficult. So once they're gone, that the fun begins. We'll get the extra 10 knockback strength to see if we can. You can actually see them get knocked back a little bit, but it's just not much. Okay, guess see if we can get over these line of guys up here. Get them with my flame. Yeah, let's basic attack. I think we're near the last minute. Yep. Sneak through here. See if I can get this line of guys with my flame. There we go. Yeah, sometimes when they line up, you can get a really good amount of damage in, but I gotta sneak around and see if I can get my XP. Alright, we got an elite. It's not a difficult one. Purge might get him before the end. Better get out of here. And if you can with the elites, it's nice to be able to get them with the flame, with guys behind them. Yeah, Purge should get them. There we go. There's a big bunch I want to get that flame into. I do want to stick around here to pick up all my stuff. We got 5 seconds left. Let's just jump in there. And we'll re-roll. I guess we're going to be in a bunch of a middle. I generally don't like to take that, but I have a feeling I'm going to... Yeah, I might just leave that skill at the next level. Generally that doesn't happen, but that's sort of the end of my run. And now I'll go through and take level 6 of Purge at night and record 19.3 DPS. Level 4, record 27. Level 6, record 6.9. 4, 17.8. And with the Meteor, 13.4. And the Dragon's Breath, 11.5. And that'll be how I take my data. So the things I want to stay away from that affects everything is like attack power, critical hit chance, damage, cast speed, projectile count, piercing chance, etc., etc. So that I don't have anything that's going to affect how much damage these do. I've only had one run where I had to stop because there's just was out of rerolls and I had to take something that was going to affect, so it was really annoying. But I've done a lot of runs and it's generally pretty easy to keep away from that. But anyways, that's how I do the runs. That's the sample. It's not perfect, but it gives you some insight into what's going on. And if you find this interesting, like, subscribe, and comment. Let me know if you do any testing, or if there's any testing you'd like to do, or abilities you'd like to know more about. I'm sure if you have that question, I'll probably have that question too, and it'll help make the game more interesting for me. So anyways, I appreciate it. You have a good one, and I'll see you soon.